Tropical Storm Arthur continues to spin off the Carolina coast. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Again, hurricane season 2020 doesn't begin until June 1st, but this is, I believe, the 6th year in a row we've had our A storm before the start of hurricane season. So maybe we should think about making hurricane season start on May 1st or May 15th, because as you can see, that is definitely a tropical storm right off the southeast coast. And again, it's expected to narrowly miss the Outer Banks, but it's going to come close enough that we have a tropical storm warning from Duck to Surf City, including Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. Here's the latest on Arthur as of 5 p.m. It was at 31.5 north, 77.2 west. Winds were 45 miles an hour, although they may be a little weaker than that based on some satellite and some data observations. Nevertheless, a weak tropical storm, moving north-northeast at 8 or 9 miles an hour, 1,002 millibars. And again, the track forecast pretty straightforward. There's a shortwave trough coming through the east coast, and it's going to push Arthur off the Carolinas, and then eventually bend it back to the east. As a matter of fact, in the long term, Arthur might even loop around here a little bit. We're going to have to wait and see on that, but it would be very weak if it did so. Now, the forecast models, they're also showing kind of just this spaghetti. That's what we call these model plots, by the way, the spaghetti model plots. They're showing them just zigzagging everywhere, maybe even by Bermuda in the next 4 or 5 days. But initially, they're pretty tightly clustered to the north-northeast, but it's going to be very, very close. Does Arthur actually make landfall over the Outer Banks? That remains to be seen. I should note that 6 years ago, when we used this name list, the first storm of the year over 4th of July weekend was Hurricane Arthur. I don't know if you remember, it went over the Outer Banks as a Category 2 storm, and they cleaned up within a couple hours, and it really wasn't that memorable. Thankfully, nobody was hurt and killed, and we didn't have destruction like we could have seen with a 100-mile-an-hour storm, and the name Arthur remained on the list, and that's why we are using it today. But again, Arthur is going to come very close to the Outer Banks before turning away. There's Arthur on the visible satellite. Clearly, you can see the low-level circulation. You see it right in here. That is a low-level center, and what you'll hear throughout these video updates, whenever we get a storm, you're always looking for a closed circulation like that at the surface. Sometimes we'll have a storm developing, and the Air Force will fly in there and say, no, it's at the mid-levels. Or they'll find a southerly wind, an easterly wind, a northerly wind, but they won't find that westerly wind to close off the center. Well, in this case with Arthur, we clearly have a closed low-level surface center. However, it is very unfavorable. You can see scattered convection, not very intense, and it's definitely a low-end tropical storm. This is the 3-day forecast map from the Storm Prediction Center. You can see there's going to be the front moving off, pushing Arthur to the east. We're not going to have a landfall. If it is a landfall, it'll be the Outer Banks. And to be honest, the tropical storm winds extend 125 miles from the center, but a lot of that's on the right side. So hopefully we'll keep this offshore, but there will be high swells and some dangerous rip currents. So stay out of the water in North Carolina over the next couple of days. I should note we have another system, but it's way on the other side of the world. I don't cover it often, but the Indian Ocean, there's India right here, and there's Sri Lanka, and you can see Bangladesh up here. This is a cyclone, the equivalent of a 130-mile-an-hour hurricane, which would be a Category 4 storm. This is Cyclone Umphan, and as of 11 p.m. India Standard Time, I believe that is, it's at 12.6 north, 86.6 east. Winds are over 130 miles an hour. It's a dangerous Category 4 on our scale, moving north-northeast very slowly at 6. And it looks like it's going to just barrel right into Bangladesh, maybe areas of India and Myanmar, but Bangladesh definitely seems to be ground zero for a landfall in about 2 to 3 days, as what will probably be a Category 2 or 3 cyclone still, and a lot of storm surge can bury itself right into that region, and so it's going to be very dangerous. You can see the satellite imagery there. Obviously a very powerful tropical cyclone with a well-defined eye, good curved banding, and just a lot of heavy weather headed right for Bangladesh and India over the next 2 to 3 days. Be on the lookout if you live along the coast there. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on Arthur and I'll see you next time.